chair. Just
Hi everyone, I'm Kenney. I haven't been nervous at all about this, but now that I'm up here, I just got, oh! So bear with me. But yes, I am a traumatic brain injury survivor, and I will tell you my story right now, although I realized only when I came here that virtually everything I'm going to say is in the packet that you all got, so maybe I should just sit down and have a drink, but we can just do that. But, no, I'm just kidding. Get in trouble with some people for saying that. So here's my story, which is intense, but happy enough endings. And also because one thing about traumatic brain injuries, your short-term memory is very weak. So I will be having my cards with me, so if you see me looking down frequently, I might need a little assistance, which is why I have those, so don't worry about that. So, here we are. Like many people who have experienced trauma of some kind, I think of my life in terms of before and after. And here's my before. In 2006, I was 26, living in DC, working at a think tank at Georgetown University, their Health Policy Institute, as a health policy analyst. And life was really, really good. I had a great boss. My work was very interesting and stimulating and very difficult. I also had a really great salary. Not that I have no money, but I say that. I had a handsome boyfriend, very close friends from both high school and college. So I was happy. And every year since our graduation, my college crew and I, we would always reunite for some adventure, some trip. And this year we decided to go camping on the Oregon coast near Portland. What a night. And our last night together, we were walking back from a late night dinner on one of the main streets, late, at 2 in the morning. And I was hit by a car, a Prius, a green Prius. And the police later determined that the Prius was driving 45 miles an hour. And the accident, of course, made every newspaper in Oregon. I was on the front cover of some of them because of two odd facts. One was that I was hit by a car on a sidewalk, which usually you should be safe on a sidewalk. And also, the woman who hit me was not impaired by drugs or alcohol, but rather a very prominent lawyer in one of the most prominent law firms in Portland, Preston, Gates, and Ellis. I still have a problem when I hear her name, so I won't say it. Anyway, I've got some issues with that one. But in the middle of the piece of this very, very bad luck, the worst luck I've ever had in my life, was the good luck that the accident happened 2 miles from one of the biggest trauma hospitals on the West Coast. And they knew what to do. For instance, they said, if this accident happened in El Paso, you would probably be dead. So glad that I was where I was in some ways. And because of the proximity to the hospital, I was in surgery within 20 minutes, which is a good thing. And that's probably still why I'm walking and talking today. Thank goodness. Although, as people who love me say, I never stop talking. So, husband, do you ever just shut up? So this is what happened when I got to the hospital. This is what had happened to me. I had Am I speaking too loud or too soft? Okay, just making sure, 'cause I'm loud. Okay. I had 4 points of intracranial bleeding, so my brain was bleeding in 4 places. My upper left arm was shattered and required a titanium rod to replace the humerus bone. My left leg was broken, and I broke 3 toes. I still don't know which 3 toes, but I know I broke 3 toes. Some of those 3. My left eye socket was crushed and needed to be pinned and wired back together. And eventually, unfortunately, I developed many classic symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Had a bad effect on some of my relationships and my attitude there. But of course, I have no memory of this, nor do I have any memory of the month and a half after my accident, even though I know I was speaking and doing things. I read reports of things I said and did, some of which were very inappropriate given the fact that it was post-traumatic brain injury. And so when I was in the hospital, I spent a week in an induced coma in the ICU. As I smile, I'm saying, another 3 weeks in acute trauma care. And when I was stable enough to be released from the hospital, I was airlifted home to Crouched Mountain in Greenfields, New Hampshire, which of course luckily is only 6 miles away from my parents' house, who were with me every step of the horrible way. And I spent 4 months at Crouched as an inpatient, which I don't remember some of, but it was, you know, when you realize what's happened to you, when you come to, there's a lot of like anger and frustration and, you know, screw this, I didn't sign up for this, but hey, it's there for you, so gotta live with it. And then after that, I lived with my parents for another year and a half. Thank you for that. And during that time, my mother, who, wow, drove me every day to every imaginable type of therapy. In fact, her life became taking care of me, driving me everywhere, even if it was 3 hours away. We were always together driving to some sort of therapy. For instance, a lot of physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, body work, and dance therapy, which helped manage my anger. And EFT, which is emotional focus therapy, which deals with PTSD and the issues, the many issues that are related to having PTSD. Unfortunate. And so I did. I lived with my parents until I was able to move into my own apartment, which I was eager to do that well before I could have. You know, I'm an adult, I want to live alone. And, you know, I really couldn't have done that. I wasn't quite there yet. And of course, I must admit that I've lived within 3 miles of my parents over the past 17 years since my accident happened. So despite my age, I need to be close to my mommy and daddy. And what my family experienced through me or by me, because of me, in the aftermath of my traumatic brain injury was not that unusual. It's unfortunate, but not that unusual. Brain injury is different for each person. I mean, every part, you know, whichever part of your brain it affects and how you react to it, different outcomes, but some struggles are the same. I've noticed in, you know, the support groups I've been in, we have similar issues. We have emotional ups and downs, which I'm very, very aware of. I think my husband is very aware of that too. Like I'm on a roller coaster sometimes. I mean, way up, way down. And I take medication for that to try to stabilize that, not neutralize, but I'm certainly not neutral anyway. Irritability, which is a big problem for those of us with a traumatic brain injury, because we can get very angry very quickly and go from 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds. And that can be a real issue, especially if you're around people who don't know you and don't understand your issues, and you know, it's kind of out of control at times. And also, and I've had a big problem with this, and certainly with certain members of my family more than others, but you can be very mean and hurtful, and I was very mean and hurtful to those around me. And of course, it always usually happens to be to the people who love you most, and you love most, and who take the most care of you. So other problems we all share as traumatic brain injured people, overwhelming fatigue. I still need to take a nap every day usually, even, and it surprises people. It's like, you haven't had a very hard or difficult day, why do you need to take a nap? And it's like, my brain has to work harder to do some regular things, harder than the average person, because I have to go, my brain has to go new directions, and so, it's the explanation of it. Disrupted sleeping cycles. For a while I couldn't, you know, I would go to sleep at 4 or 5 in the morning, I couldn't ever sleep. And then I'd sleep all day, which as an adult is not what you're supposed to do. Short-term memory loss, which is still a very big problem. My short-term memory is weak, and I need to be reminded of things that people told me 5 minutes ago. And they just think that, oh, you're not paying attention, you don't care what I'm saying. I'm like, it's really not that. It's that I have a weakness here, and you know, I'm sorry, I apologize. Impulsive behavior. And I've been very impulsive, and the stories I have to that would not be appropriate to share here. So yeah, I mean, I can be very impulsive. It's gotten better though over the years. More, you know, I'm more like responsible and mature and adult-like now, for the most part. And so over 17 years, I still struggle with a lot of these issues. And so those are among the physical and personality changes that make it difficult for me to get back to the workforce. And that is really hard for me, because not being able to work has been a big problem. I mean, first of all, we all know money. I mean, we all want more money, or want some money. But a feeling of separation from people my age. You know, they all tell me about their work and like the interesting, amazing things they're doing. And I'm like, oh yeah. What do you do? Oh, well, anyway, let's talk more about your work. And sometimes, you know, when I think about it, I feel useless. Like, I don't do anything to like contribute to society. I just, you know, diddle around, and that's a problem. Because I used to have a job, you know, where I was really contributing. I worked hard and I was helping people, and that stopped. Also, I wasn't able to have children because I got my injury when I was 26, and I probably would have had children had I not been brain injured. But after my brain injury, the thought of children was almost impossible. I mean, I needed to sleep a lot. I was very impatient. It was, you know, it was kind of all about me. It's like, you know, when you have a baby, it has to be all about them, and you don't sleep. Apparently, I've been told, with a baby. So the upside of it all is that I have been very, very lucky. The most lucky thing since my accident is that I did meet a man who is here today, who somehow loves me in spite of all of my serious difficulties, and he accepts them for the most part, and he's patient with my outbursts for the most part, again. And my roller coaster emotions. He's stuck by me for a long, long time, and he's the most amazing. In fact, I thank God for you, Michael, every day of my life. You're the greatest blessing I've ever had in my life. besides not dying. That's good. I like it everyone clapped. And unlike many, and I've met a lot of people who have traumatic brain injuries, and their families step away. In fact, I spoke with one woman, and it's like, this isn't, you know, the daughter we know. Why don't you call us when you get better, when you get back to normal? But the thing about it is, you don't ever get back to what they consider normal, because who you were before an accident is going to be somewhat different from who you are now. The challenges. So people are estranged because they can't accept or deal with this new person they've become. But my family, another of the greatest blessings in my life, my family, my parents, and my sister have gotten me through this. Really, I don't know where I would be without them. But also my extended family, like my Grammy, my grandmother, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, they've all been right there all 17 years, as difficult and obnoxious and rude I've been, which I know I have been. But I mean, with my family, it's like in moments when I've felt really, unstable and at loss of what this life is that I didn't sign up for, they've been there. They've given me like the love and stability I need to keep going, which has helped me keep going in times when I didn't really want to. And that's my after, before and after. So I must say that I've had a pretty good life, knowing that in spite of this serious difficulty, I always have the support of the three people, the most important three people there at the table, Michael, my mother, and my father, who've just been there. Because recovery it's not a straight line at all. I mean, it's up and down, and it's like, 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and, you're just like, what the? And I'm still recovering. And that's one thing about brain injuries. You keep on recovering even like 25 years after your accident. People told me, that they still have, steps forward. So you see incremental little movements, year to year, which, hey, I'll take any little bit I can take if I'm going forward and, getting better. But improvement is slow. It's painfully, frustratingly, angeringly slow sometimes. And sometimes I get, sad about myself or down, but I'm not alone. So I'm lifted right back up with love and fun, and that's great. Because throughout my before and after, and this is like really a blessing, I've always been like a very upbeat, happy person. I was just born that way, which is a blessing. So, it's like bring positive energy, so like whatever, even if you have like the worst situation, like your brain injured, this is not me, this is not what I signed up for, but you know what? Somehow there's always something okay in it. It's going to be good, you're going to be okay. Surrounded by those you love the most. And I was very lucky to have, I'm almost done, don't worry. I was very lucky to have a father who was a psychologist who had worked with brain injured people before my accident, who had a sense of how to interact with people. Sometimes he'd say to my mother, like, that's enough. And I was like, yeah, listen to your husband. But I had problems with her. And very few survivors have that blessing. So, and fortunately, the Brain Injury Association of New Hampshire is there to guide families, other families, all across the state, with the right services and professionals who can help them recover. And for some survivors, Brain Injury Association is their compass and their lifeline, which could take you from like way down there to at least to a more normal level. And I'm very proud and happy to be part of the BIANA, to be a board member, so thank you. Anyway, that's all. Please.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for your courage and your example that you set for so many people in the state. So, thank you very much. We actually have a little gift for you too, and it's just right for you. This is a thank you. We'll get to the results just in a few seconds. I just wanted to recognize Northeast Rehab Hospital as our title sponsor. Is the Northeast team still here? Please stand if you don't mind. So thank you. And also Phil Lyar, VR from Independence Care. Phil, is Phil still here with his team? Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you. Sponsor as well. And last but not least, the Workers of Independent Living. Thanks, guys, for your help. And we have our 50-50 raffle. What did I do with it? There it is. John Cunningham, $445. So is John here?
What number?
21. John? Oh, thank you very much. John is donating this back to the association. Thank you. Thank you very much. I also wanted to thank Renee and the whole team, Ellen, Lori, Rosalie, Freddie. So thank you guys. Great job. I have one more thank you. And actually, our new president was supposed to be here. He was going to be involved with his brother, but had to cancel at the last minute. But part of this was we wanted to recognize our past president, Robin Kenney. Robin, I just want to thank you. Just have a gift for you, just to say thanks. So thank you very much. Your 4-year term went by very fast as we were talking earlier. But thanks again for all of you. Okay. Was it John? Yes.